Welcome to Shone's Thoughts. It's such a wondrous morning today, and I'm so excited that you're here with me and that I've made it for the first time, just naturally, organically. And what I mean by that is it's 5:55 a.m. and I'm recording. This is kind of one of the things that I perhaps thought I would always, or maybe I envisioned doing one day, is to do my podcast at 5:55 a.m. See, I like numbers which reflect one another, and 5:55 has always been a number where I have chosen to release my podcasts when I upload them and allow them to be published while I'm sleeping. And yet, this morning I woke up to this grand, beautiful day, this wondrous morning. Wondrous because I love the word, but also because, well, I choose to actually, hello there, I choose to replace that word that we would normally say, the good one. So this is a wondrous morning, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. And I have an inkling of what I'm going to talk about, and yet, I still leave it open to whatever decides to come through, for me to be guided to say, to share, depending, of course, who's present and who's aware, and, all the different synchronicities that perhaps can and will come into alignment even during this podcast today. And just before we get started, if you get to this point right now, I highly encourage you. There's a reason why you clicked on this podcast. There is a reason why you found my channel. See, I've been going through my own healing experience over the last, decade, but definitely more so over the last 3 years. And I've experienced a ton of things, from betrayal to the lowest point that I could have imagined. And I understand that there are even lower points out there, and yet perhaps in the past I had dealt with that, or perhaps I dealt with the energy of those different experiences in a much different way than other people. And I went through a healing journey that has challenged me at times, that has almost broken me at other times where I lost my voice screaming in my car because I wanted to yell as loud as I could. So not having a space, because I live in a city where I could just, go into a room in a house, for example, and yell. I live in an apartment building, so if I were to scream at the top of my lungs, as I did when I was in the car, I would have notified the whole entire building that I was screaming. And even if I were to walk around the streets, or perhaps even go into the forest, I would be bringing all that hostility into such a wonderful place. And my vibration is here. It's perhaps meant to help awaken the trees. It's not to, go screaming. So anyways, my point being is I have went through a really interesting healing journey. All the way starting perhaps when my mother passed away, after I exposed my greatest fear was my mother passing away. And that actually ended up happening shortly after I started to use a technique in acting school where you are supposed to explore what your greatest fear was. And then the actors, what they do is they focus their attentions on that experience, and therefore when they act, they are bringing that up again, and they're utilizing that each and every time they go on stage. And interestingly enough, that was around the time that when I was in acting school where I lost my mother due to cancer. And you could kind of say that my healing or awakening began all the way back then, and that was in 2010. And yet, I went through several different stages, including getting locked in video games where I allowed darkness to consume me to levels that, most people don't understand. I became one of the most aggressive gamers with regards to Xbox Gamer Score. These are achievements which are earned by, completing sometimes very silly tasks on the game. And, the quicker I could get through it, the better it was for me, or at least that's the way I felt. And at times, this energies, we'll call it, they consumed me. They turned me into something that was always focused on gaming. And at points in time, I became very dark. And even you could say that that was also part of my healing journey, because I had to, well, for one thing, I had to hide from what was all around us at that time, as well as, which, by the way, we're going to talk about later, is a lot of that perhaps is now gone from the world, which is awesome. Anyways, I had to also create the mud in which I would learn from, create the circumstances which I would learn from. See, I've often said that we co-create a lot of the reality that we live in. It's our beliefs that we project out, and therefore we perceive and receive, that we all play a part in the world we see. And I know that's hard to understand. You know, I read this book about, it's called The Secret, and I'm not suggesting to read it, but it brought up an interesting idea to me. It essentially asserted the idea that we're all on, you know, we're all creating the reality. And then the question was brought up, well, does all the people on the airplane when it crashes, are they all creating that reality? Is that what they want? And the answer was no. Essentially, at least that's how I understood it, that they were all on a resonance frequency. But more importantly as well, they were all on a path that, you know, that happened. Like, that was part of, some people call it dharma, or it was their path, or whatever it was. But what I'm getting back to is that we all play a part, even in war, even in, you know, like the lowest low that you can see. Because as Kim Gogan said in her last report when I was part of the UNN community, I've since had my subscription canceled because money issues, but she had mentioned that, well, going back to it, we all play a part. She had mentioned that if we were at our true power of ability, that we would stop the war. We would simply decide it doesn't have to happen, or will no longer happen. And we as people, as humans, if we had the power to essentially manifest the things that we preferred, then they would simply be. And this is a wondrous morning, because I believe we are on the verge of changing and shifting our reality to an unimaginative degree. See, as I was going to talk about, or I mentioned previously, there has been many miraculous things that have been happening. See, if you look out at the world right now and you see all of this chaos that's happening, all of these wars, these cycles that we're going through, you see all of this poverty, the homelessness, the crime that's happening, you know, you're seeing jobs being lost, companies shutting down, especially those government corporate companies, you're seeing prices rise, like you're seeing all of this chaos. And well, you could look at that as, you know, something negative like Armageddon, or you know, Judgment Day, or something like that, some religious ideology type of situation. But yet you could also see that as the old system, the system that preyed on everyone, the system that abused most of people and allowed a select few and their cronies to stand on the back of everyone. And then even with that whole system, they taught us, the remainder, the other 99%, they taught us to live in separation, to struggle with one another, to essentially crawl up. You know, Snoop Dogg came up with that whole idea of doggy dog world. And that's the idea that, you know, everyone's scrapping to get up just a little bit. And then they succumb to the idea of the lesser two evils, and then they essentially corrupt themselves just a little bit, just enough to make the system go round and round the way it is, and then we lose our loved ones, and we lose ourselves in the whole mixture. When in fact, we don't have to live that way. We don't have to live that, you know, one person's gaining from the other. I often talk about my blueprint plans, and actually I had the opportunity yesterday to fully and talk about who I am and my ideas and present them to a friend of mine. Thank you so much, Julius, for listening to me. And I was able to explain to him how I see the world. And honestly, that is so much more important. But before we get into that, I want to get back into the reframing of the world. So we see all of these things that are happening. We see mortgages being canceled. We see homes being put up for sale. We see, construction companies or developers in Vancouver, as I understand it, going belly up and then being supported by government investing of the Canadian pension plan. Now, I'm uncertain whether or not that's true. You'll have to do your own work on that. Go over to the channel David Fraser. He claims to be a human now. He actually said that in his last podcast. And he actually explores a lot of these different situations that are going on across Canada. So I highly recommend. I'll try to remember to drop his handle in the YouTube, but it's literally David Fraser. So really simple, or at David Fraser on YouTube. But anyways, you see all of these extraordinary situations going on in the world right now. And as I said, we can sit there and we can look in fear, as we have done in the past. We can reach into our back pocket. We can see how we did things yesterday, and therefore we can react the way we do today. Now, those people who are creating those headlines, and I say creating, manifesting maybe perhaps, but more importantly, fabricating, writing a scripted narrative, that's the way they used to do things. They used to get us in a state of negativity and hostility, and therefore we would react in the manner that they would like. And the reason is because our entire world was a little bit different. I laugh when I say that, but it was different from what we perceived or realized it to be. And what it was a situation where our negative frequencies, our lower vibrational emotions, our fear, our rage, our anger, our hate, our lust, and I don't mean lust as in divine love type of thing, like passionate love making. I mean our lust, like that idea of gluttony, of like needing more, that one isn't good enough, or in my case, three aren't good enough. That's just a little bit of a joke, but not really. Anyways, that what we had wasn't good enough, that we always had to go for more, I'm meaning. And we can take that and we can reframe it, that for the first time in our history, we are seeing more than we've ever seen before. We are actually witnessing what's going on. We're becoming aware. We are seeing the illusion for what it is. As I've talked about recently, the politics in Canada where, party members of the Conservative Party have chosen to become liberal. Like, nobody voted for them to be liberal, but they're finding a loophole in how we vote. And it's completely true for some people. For some people, when they vote, they will vote on that person. But yet, most people vote on that person's platform, and that person's platform is a representative of the party. For instance, when I was considering running for the PPC in Canada, which is the People's Party of Canada, I had ideas of a platform. I was told to send in what I believed as a platform would be for my candidacy, and I was told by the person I was contacted with that I could not change the party's platform at all. So that means that whole story that we're told in the Canadian politics, that we're voting for the person, we're not voting for the party, that's a bunch of crap, because I was told I was not allowed to vote for change the party's platform. So it didn't matter what I said as an individual. I had to stay aligned to the party, even to get into the party. And that was the Purple Party, the Purple People Eaters. And so when those people, those conservatives with their previous platform crossed that floor, they actually changed their platform. So yeah, that's a whole nother story, and we'll continue that later if people actually are interested in talking about that. If you are, definitely leave in the comments that you would like to hear more about my thoughts on all of that. Anyways, getting back to the reframing, so we can therefore now look at it as, for the first time in our history, we are now able to see all of this stuff. It's no longer hidden. It's no longer concealed in, all the things that happen. The media isn't able to spin it to a way that we'll go, oh, okay, well, I guess that's the way it is, and then move on with our day and continue struggling. No, many of us are in such of a state where our resources and our experience that we're going through right now is so challenged, and honestly, many of us have a lot more time than we've ever had. Actually, since the 2020 pandemic, I've had a lot of time to essentially look and ponder and consider things that I did in my own life, interactions that I had with other people, with my former partner, with, my loved ones, with my family, with my friends. And regardless of any betrayal or interaction they had, I was able to look upon myself, self-reflect, which is a super important aspect of healing, because as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, we all play a role in every interaction we've had. So that means the taxi driver who's yelling at you, he's yelling at you because you brought that on for yourself. Whatever it is, whatever reason, it could be that you didn't realize what you had done. It could simply be something you didn't recognize. Or it could be that you cut him off. Or it could be that he perceived you doing something that you didn't even do. There's so many different reasons, and when we're able to relax, step back, and check ourselves out, oftentimes we'll find how we participated. And that's the important part of awareness, is to recognize our role that we had in what we did. And this whole world that we're living in right now is an opportunity to recognize the part that we played in creating the system. For example, if we were struggling to get ahead and then we got a big lump of money because there was a huge foreign investment, because the Prime Minister, one of the first things he did when he got into Canada is he canceled the limitation on foreign investment in real estate in Canada. And then all of a sudden, foreign investment started buying up large parts of a major city called Vancouver. Anyways, if we recognize that, we got that large investment and then we essentially took that money and then we went and bought 2 or 3 other pre-sales, hoping that one day that we would therefore gain off of someone else paying our mortgage, then we have to recognize that we were participatory in the economic distress that we were in right now. Because our ability to buy, or not our ability, but our desire to, climb up the backs of another dog was essentially what led to that situation. Our desire to be wealthy. And of course, that's not that it's a bad thing. It's not that I'm criticizing or, condemning anyone for doing that, because that's the world we were in. And yet, the recognition of our essentially our participation within that structure is what allowed it to happen, because not only did we do that, or, well, perhaps you, if you're listening to this, because I wasn't able to. I've never had the financial resources to go and do that, nor did I ever have a desire to buy the houses, because I recognized mortgages for what they were. Anyways, we'll talk about mortgages later. But anyways, if you were in any way participatory, you perhaps could have participated in numerous different parts of the system, even the religious systems, even contributing to churches that left with people's money and such, whatever it is. We all participated, and now we have the opportunity to see what's going on. We are seeing the corruption firsthand. We are seeing the scandals. We're seeing it all because they no longer have the money to hide what's happening. There was an amazing TV show, I think it was called Scandal something or other. It had this African American, or, I won't say African American because what does that mean really? They had this black woman, and she was the lead actress in it. I think the show is called Scandal or something like that. But what the show was about is a private company of fixers, of people that basically came in and helped erase politicians or rich people's mishaps for an awful lot of money. And they would make things go away. They would hide the body. They would create different situations. They would essentially make situations in rich people's lives who had the money. And this was based in Washington, D.C. They would make that all go away. And unfortunately, that type of system literally required a large infusion of money, because they had to pay for bribes, they had to pay for all the stuff that they had to pay for. Now, we live in a world where, you can see the economic distress as different governments are challenged with, funding their budgets, and we can see, a lot of different situations where there is a considerable amount of debt. The debt and the American government debt, the Canadian government debt, the world government debts. There's a lot of debt right there, and therefore there isn't the same financial resources in any part of the world for them to simply make things go away any longer. So we, as the Homo sapiens, as the 99% will say, we are seeing it. And because we are seeing it, we now have the opportunity to do something different. I love the saying, if you're going to keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you got. Well, we are at a point where we can choose now, because we have the awareness. We have this podcast where I'm sharing the things that I've learned. And with this information, we no longer have to keep our head in the sands. And that does not mean this is a call for resistance. This is not a call for action towards, fighting back. Because what we resist persists. It means it doesn't go away. It continues to come at us to degrees that we can't even imagine. And that's the old way of doing things. This whole podcast that I'm creating, this whole community that I'm creating here on Patreon, and I fully invite you, I encourage you, I ask you, come over and see me on Patreon. Join. Patreon link will be in the description. It's on YouTube. It's on my homepage on YouTube. It's everywhere you can find it. And what Patreon is, for those who don't already know, is a community funding website, we'll call it, where artists and different aspects, and I am an artist, I'm a photographer, videographer, director, writer, screenplay person, actor, dancer, singer. I'm definitely an artist, but at the same time, I'm a Homo sapien who wants to collectively bring people together. So yesterday I did an amazing podcast on Rumble Studio where I showcased my TV series called Transmission, and you can definitely go and look at that right now. I would be using Rumble right now to stream, but I still have a cloned phone where when I try to log in or use my apps on my phone, crazy things happen. We'll leave it at that. And yet, so I'm back on YouTube. I will upload this video onto Rumble as well. But anyways, back to Patreon. Patreon is a community that I am building. And I came up with the idea of, what if 1 million people gave me $1? What can I do? Well, I'm going to be doing that. And if you look over on Patreon, you'll see what I'm looking at doing. If you look at my blueprint plans on my podcasts on either Rumble or my playlists on, my podcasts on YouTube or my playlist on Rumble, you'll see blueprint plans, and these are all the plans that I intend to do. Now, with that being said, I'm creating community because I'm choosing to do things differently. I want to see a world that is beautiful, full of love, full of compassion and joy, relieved of jealousy and envy and greed and suffering and hostilities and anger and hatred and fear. Those are all going away, and we are going to replace them and reconnect the Homo sapiens with love and affection. And love comes in so many forms. It's not just romantic love. It is love that unites, love that connects, love that empowers compassion, love that allows us to reach for heights. It's the love that a mother has within her when she moves a car off of her child who has been hit by the car. That kind of love. The love that unites, the love that empowers compassion. The love that allows us to support one another regardless of our thoughts about that person. There's so many people out there who are unwilling to support someone because they don't believe in what they're doing. And so they're like, well, I'm not going to support you because I don't agree with what you're doing. Well, that's not the love that I would love to be in. I would love to be in that we support one another through the hardships, through the learning experiences to the highest degree, not by essentially, making it worse. So, for instance, giving a drug addict drugs is not the way to solve or to show love, but to support that person and to love them regardless. Unconditional love is really a great aspect or a great wording of what the kind of love I mean. So now we have the opportunity to step up and step forward, regain our power, call out that we no longer consent to whatever it is that we consented to previously, and we reclaim the power that is inherently ours. Each of ours we hold in with us a power that is of the divine, that is of God. And this power is something that we have in the past utilized. We have had our ancestors utilize it. We've had what people would call witches and whatever, like the male version of it, I'm not sure, wizards maybe, I'm not sure, I guess wizards, but we've had expressions of this power, and yet we lived in a world where we were essentially demonstratized and we were brought down to a level where we lacked self-belief in ourself. But it's the belief in ourself that empowers us to be more than we believe ourselves to be. The more we instill self-confidence within ourselves, the more we build our self-confidence, the more we stand up and get off that couch and, put down that video game controller. It was challenging for me as well. There was times where I knew I had to quit, and I tried even self-sabotaging. There was actually a mod on Xbox where I could give myself gamer scores. I was able, through my computer and the different other functions, to actually go in and unlock achievements which I had never achieved. And I could even give myself a timestamp to make it look real. And there was a time where I was so frustrated with my gaming because I had truly felt that I needed to break away. I needed to get off the game, that I ended up giving myself full gamer score. This mod essentially unlocked every achievement on Xbox 360 and gave it to me. And I was going to save it on my profile, and I knew the moment I saved it and uploaded my gamer tag back onto the profile, I knew that I would be red flagged as a hacker. And I was looking essentially, or at least the real part of me, the honest, the loving part of me that was trying to break free from that situation, well, I recognized that I would essentially be banned. And all of my games that were attached to my gamer card, they would be essentially gone and I would be free. But yet I wasn't able to break free of the darkness that had consumed me at that time. And so I basically backed that out and I went on, and I don't know, I guess I added that in because perhaps I'm thinking about that, but we are now at a point where we can break free from all of this. We are now seeing very clearly the deception and the lies and, the illusion that we lived behind and within. And there's many people out there right now in the world who are even just looking for a job and they can't find one. When I was first, ejected from my company by my separation, and I lost my job, I applied for many jobs. At least that's how I viewed it. I know people have applied for a lot more than that, but I applied for many jobs and I wrote them all beautiful cover letters, and I was really, engaged in getting that job. And yet I got zero responses I got one response, a response from Hyundai to be a private contractor. I wasn't even able to be employed. I got no benefits. I was just asked to come in to start shit up between the other salespeople. They didn't even need another salesperson. They essentially told me that they just wanted someone to come in and, get the competition going because I am a very good salesperson. And other than that, I received no callbacks, no interviews, no responses, no declining letter, nothing. Zero. So I understand how hard it is out there. And so there are people that are in that state right now, and there are by the hundreds of thousands worldwide. The statistic that I came upon in the David Fraser's video that I watched yesterday was that between the ages of 15 to 24, which is, your high school, university students, the unemployment rate is almost 15% or 11 to 15%, something huge like that. And that's interesting. But even beyond that, the university people, just normal older people, there's a huge amount of people that are looking for jobs, but yet there are far more people in this world who have recognized for a very, very long time what's happening in our world. And while we're at different economic stages of ability, means some of us have, assets. We own our own houses, or not we, but they. Some of you guys own your own houses, or you have fully paid, guest houses or vacation homes, but we're all at different economic states. And then there's other people who don't even have homes. And those people recognized this whole system that was, consuming them. And perhaps they got connected to drugs and put on because they hurt themselves, and then the doctors recommended they get this drug that they became addicted to, and then from there on, the government gave out free drugs and they went downhill. See, what I'm trying to put out there is we are all at different stages of this journey, and yet we are all on the same journey. We are all coming home. And when I say coming home, I mean coming home to this beautiful planet, which is being revealed right now as we speak. The birds are chirping, and they're chirping more beautifully ever than they ever have before. Their song has supposedly changed. Honestly, it's hard for me to tell because in the past I never heard this many birds chirping. And actually I have another microphone, so they could use that microphone so you could hear the birds chirping with me perhaps. And so, as I said, while we look around this morning, oh, there goes a squirrel. I'm like a dog. Squirrel! Anyways, as we look around this morning and we continue going forth, we can sit there mired in what happened in the past, or we can look at what is in our present moment. We can hold gratitude for the family that has stood by our side. And I'm so grateful for many things. I'm so grateful for my son. I'm so grateful for the first two founding tier members of Patreon, Samantha and Trev. Thank you so much for supporting me, for supporting us. I mean, this whole community. That's what Patreon for me is about. It's not a crowdfunding function so I can earn money so that I can go live my life and, create art. It's for that too. That's one small fraction. It's about building a community where I can go out and help and support other people that perhaps aren't where you and I are at right now. And I say that because if you are watching this, even if you are former deep state or you're former members of whoever was watching me or operatives or such, or you're that loving, compassionate Homo sapien who's been challenged for decades or years, struggled through so many different situations where they tried to get us to do things that we would never do. Regardless of who you are, this is our community, and that is what Patreon is about. It's about bringing us together so that we can therefore create a different path. And as I said, we are all in different financial levels, so you will find on Patreon, you can join for free. You can begin supporting by $1, a US dollar, which I recognize for some countries, that's still a lot of money. You can also support 10 others and become a founding tier member at $11 US. Or, I await the first one because I know you're out there. You can come over and support me on Patreon. Not support me, but support the world. You can support a whole planet of Homo sapiens at $11,000. And I know there's someone out there, and I put up that there can at least be 10. I'm willing to accept 10 only of that level of support for Patreon. But you can choose whatever it is that you are comfortable and just join and become part of this amazing community that we are building. And as I said, I thank you so much to my first two founding tier members, Samantha and Trev. I definitely appreciate and hold so much love and gratitude for, your support and affection. And I really encourage everyone to get out there and share your creativity, share your love, and support everyone and anyone around you. And if you're in a situation where you can't support someone for whatever reason, then focus inward and support yourself, because you can do that. Even just by listening to uplifting and aware-seeking, truth-seeking podcasts such as Shone's Thoughts on New Earth Creations, you can, build and strengthen and heal yourself. And that ripple that basically comes from the light that begins to shine brighter in every part of your being, that will ripple out into your community, into everyone that you walk by, even if you don't talk to them. Even if for some reason you choose not to smile, the energy will go from the higher to lower state. Means your energy that's within you will naturally ripple out, because through the law of something or other, that energy has a desire to move, to essentially, as I said, ripple out or wave out into the community. And you can imagine that as if you were the rock, or you were in the middle where a rock was thrown in a lake, and that ripple of water that rippled out in all directions, and it keeps on going. Even when it comes into a distortion of another ripple that's going in a different direction, it still continues to ripple through. And, I encourage you, even at the lowest point, go find a body of water, whether it's a puddle, a lake, a river, or an ocean, and throw some rocks in there and watch that ripple, because that's what we are. That's what I am. And that's a capital I, capital A, small m. I am a ripple. You are the ripple. And we are all love. And love is of God. And we are of God. Everything is connected. And we are returning home to all recognize our true and rightful place within this world that we no longer just exist in. We are a part of it. We literally are. If you think about it, I want you to think about this one last thing before we go. Every part that we consume, everything that goes in our mouth, is from the earth. And then what the earth does, what the food that we ate does, it turns into our cells. So every cell in our body came from the earth. And up to 7 years, I believe, every cell of our body actually is reborn, you could say. That our cells regenerate. Every organ in our body, every cell, everything, it's always regenerating. And yes, there is a timer that's currently in place, but we are even going to defeat that. But my point being is that we are of the earth, that everything that we are as a being, our skin, our hair, our bones, our blood, our shoes, our pants, our jackets, our phones, our microphones, doesn't matter what it is, everything that we are, these materials all came from this planet that we are a part of. We are of Earth. We are not separate from Earth. And that's one of the biggest things that I believe, that when we have that consciousness shift, when we realize this is not just our home, this is not just our planet, that we were created from the materials of the ground beneath us, that perhaps just that one thing can make a quantum leap in how we perceive and how we receive the blessings of the world. So I'll leave you to think with that. I encourage you highly, as I always talk about, go and check me out on Patreon. I'm going to do I'm going to do another video here on YouTube about my transmission series that I have recently posted on Patreon as a founding tier and above exclusive, as well as an option for people to, interact with if they do want to support without joining. Anyways, so much love, and I hope you have a wondrous morning, because things are changing, and they are changing fast. So don't get caught up in, being pushed one way or another. The more that you hold on and essentially, not hold on, but the more you increase your awareness and you work on your own inner healing, the more you're able to withstand and remain steadfast and stand in that river of flow, allowing everything just to go past you, being aware that it's there, perfect, knowing it, acknowledging it, supporting it when you can, yet avoiding getting caught in the rapids, getting pushed from side to side. Just remain steadfast and, perhaps spend a little time in meditation and do no thing with me. I'm going to leave that podcast, Do No Thing, because I truly do believe an important part of healing is learning to remain still, learning to let go of those inner voices that tell us that we need to work harder and get more and buy a new phone and, all the subliminal programming and outright just programming that we've received. So at the end of this podcast, I encourage you to go in and, put on my Do No Thing Challenge podcast playlist and scroll through there. You're going to see some beautiful, beautiful scenery. Listen to some beautiful music by Chris Collins. He's an amazing musician that created the music that's on most of my videos. And just have that wonderful experience. And as always, remember, comment. I'm not asking it because I'm trying to, get ego boosts. I'm letting you know that commenting is a very, very powerful way that I used in order to have moments of self-reflection and cognitions, to truly lock in what you heard rather than just let it go, especially if you resonated with it. And if you got to the end of this podcast, then you resonated with it. So please do comment and, of course, like the videos, because the interaction is what prompts YouTube to share this video with other people. If you don't comment, if you don't like, if you remain unsubscribed, then YouTube will not show this video because their new algorithm requires the audience's engagement. And if the audience doesn't engage with any and all videos, if you're sitting there and you're liking all of these funny entertainment videos, well, it's going to push that video. And then we're going to, continue getting what we've got. But if you want something different, then you've got to break out of your shell and do things differently. Do things that make you feel good. And, I guarantee you, if you comment, you will find something that will make you feel even better than you were before you started listening to me today. So thank you so much. God bless you. I bless you. The world blesses you. These birds, they're singing, they're blessing all of us. So thank you. And have a wondrous, wondrous, miraculous day today. Today being, whatever day ending why it is. Thank you so much to all those people who have fought endlessly to get us to where we are, who brought light into God's green planet. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.